Right, in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to draw the grid both on your photograph and on your final paper. Okay, so the first thing you need is your photograph. I got my pencils, and you need to find the 1-inch rulers. Now my rulers, again, like I talked about in class, are special rulers. It says the 1-inch mark, that's the 1 inch. It's the narrower, and the great thing about this ruler is that it is 1 inch all the way down on the width. So we don't have to do any measuring, okay? So I'll go ahead and take my ruler, I'm going to line it up to the edge of my paper, hold it down, spread my hands out like this, and I'm going to make a really nice dark line back and forth all the way to the edge of my paper like so. And I'm just going to continue doing it all the way down my paper like so. And I'm lining up my ruler to the last lines. I'm lining it up there, and making my lines. And I'll do that all the way down my image. Now at the end, there may be a bar that is not as wide as the inch, but that's okay if that happens. Okay, now once I've gotten all those down like this, sometimes these get off a little bit because I did cut these by hand. But they pretty much, they will be really good for our purposes. Now, when we start doing the other side, so after I'm done there, I'm going to turn, and this time I'm actually going to line up, because I have these bands of area that is not printed because my picture is a little bit different in terms of size. It's not going to fit exactly on there. I'm going to line up my ruler with the edge of my image this time, okay? And only do that if you've got these really wide bands of white. So I'm going to make my lines, and I'll move it over. And if you have an image that has a lot of dark to it and your pencil lines are not working and you can't see them, just raise your hand, let me know, and we can troubleshoot and problem solve that, okay? And I'm just going to do that all the way down the whole thing. And they might be off a tiny bit, but it will still be really good and really useful for our purposes. Okay. Now once you have your grid entirely done over your image, I'm actually going to have to flip this over, and I'm going to have you draw some light lines this time as a practice, because you need to draw, once you get your final piece of paper, this nice big 18 by 12 inch piece of paper, we can't draw we can't draw them dark lines on there because we're going to be removing our grid from our final paper after we have finished the drawing part. It's just basically to help us get the proportions right. Okay, so flip over your paper, use the same ruler, and this time draw 3, 4, 5 light lines. When you draw the light lines, if you're having trouble, hold the pencil near the eraser end and just draw them. Just hold it down and just barely drag it down. Okay, like that's a nice light line. You can almost not see it. Okay, so I'll just do another one. Okay. And if you want to check them, it's okay if they're not lined up. You know, take an eraser and erase them. And if it is totally gone, then you're in good shape. Okay. Again, if they're too dark, they won't erase. 1, 2, this paper is a lot thicker, and what will happen is a groove will be placed in there, even if you erase it out. And when you go over it with charcoal, you will be able to see that edge of the groove. And we don't want to see our grid at the end. So once you have about 3, 4, 5 of those light lines done and you feel like that you have them down, raise your hand and I will check to make sure that they are lightly done. That way, when you get the final paper, you're going to be drawing light lines. So I've okayed it. You've raised your hand. I said, okay, Mr. Davis. Okay, Mr. Davis says you're good. Now you're going to trade out the 1-inch ruler. Okay, and you're going to get the 1.5 inch ruler in green there. Okay, and it's a 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to take this, I'll put this one back. I need this one for my larger paper. Now, it works really well when it's going across, but notice that it is not long enough, okay, to go all the way to the edge. So I've got to do some moving. So I'm going to do it this way first. Okay, so I'm going to line up my ruler to the edge of my paper. I'll go this way. Okay. And I'm going to line it up. It's all nice and lined up. Light lines this time. drawing our light line and stopping. And then I'm going to move my paper and I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line it up again. I'm just sliding it down. It's lined up, and then I will just continue out my line. And I'll do this again, just like you did before. I'll line it up really carefully there. Draw my light line. You know, and if you can barely see your lines, then you're in good shape. Okay, these ones could be a little bit lighter, but actually these are pretty good. And so then I'm going to slide my ruler down. I'm going to line it up again. Got that lined up. It's really important to line them up. And then I'm going to make my lines. Okay, and I'll do the same thing. I'll do it all the way out and all the way down. Okay, and once you have your grid completed totally on your paper, make sure to flip it over, put your first name, last name, period in the corner there, and raise your hand, and I will tell you what's next.